know, I would love to stand here and tell you that this movie is fun and exciting and one of the best Indiana Jones movies ever. Yeah. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is the last movie in the franchise, and it goes out with a bang. If you like elderly abuse and new characters that don't mean anything to you, this is the movie for you. The film is in color, it has people saying things and doing stuff, and after 2.5 hours, it ends. Indiana Jones! I know it might be a little unfair to compare this movie to, let's say, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I'm not gonna do that. I will, however, compare this movie to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So right off the bat, the opening of this film is the most exciting part. It's an action-packed sequence of about 20 minutes with a CGI de-aged Harrison Ford. And I have to say, he looks pretty good. That is, until he starts to speak. Because the thing about de-aging actors is, you can't de-age a voice. So besides the lack of expression on his face, you see a 40-year-old Indy who sounds like an 80-year-old Harrison Ford. It is real weird. I'm not a big fan of de-aging older actors. I'm of the opinion that there's absolutely nothing wrong with casting a younger actor. One of the more recent films that used younger actors was Dr. Sleep, and it worked perfectly. I mean, you're telling me they couldn't find some actor who was willing to play a younger Indy for a few days? And it's not a whole lot of acting in that part of the movie anyway. Like I said, the opening is basically one long action sequence. I should actually preface this by saying this movie is not terrible, but it's not very good either. I like James Mangold as a director, but The Dial of Destiny doesn't feel like an Indiana Jones movie. It feels like a generic action movie that happens to star Harrison Ford. It feels like one of the newer Star Wars sequels, to be honest. One of the biggest problems I found is that it doesn't have that Spielberg look of blocking a scene and staging the camera. This is just one of the things that Spielberg is known for. He reframes the camera in a single shot, sometimes more than once. The camera and the actors in one shot move without cutting away, and it feels very natural. It certainly takes more effort from everyone in the scene, but even in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, you have long camera shots that are beautifully choreographed. This movie doesn't have that. Instead, you have much shorter shots that are cut together. And you might think, what does it matter? You're getting the same information anyway, which is true, but the Spielberg way is more about visual storytelling, and it allows for a scene to flow naturally. All of these Indiana Jones movies have that in common, except for this one. I'm an editor, and I'm telling you the editing in this film is exhausting because they don't have that natural flow. So besides not looking like an Indiana Jones movie, the story is also pretty dull. And I'm not talking about the plot, because all these movies are fun adventures with silly plots and some magical MacGuffin. But in this film, the only interesting character is Indiana Jones. Everyone else is boring. Take Phoebe Waller-Bridge, for example. Her character is really one-note, very unlikable, and her character arc is super predictable. Ford is 80 years old, so I get that you need someone younger to drive the action and the plot forward, but making Waller-Bridge co-star in this film was not a good choice. Her character had no charm, there was no chemistry between her and Ford, so if there's not much to latch onto, you lose interest real fast. Like I said, I'm just an editor, I'm not a writer, but how do you not put Short Round in the final Indiana Jones film? I mean, Ke Huy Quan is right there, he just won an Oscar. He's even in the promotional video for a movie he's not even in. It would have been perfect because, and this is a tiny spoiler, Mutt Williams, Indy's son, has died in the war in this movie, and Dr. Jones, feels responsible. So Short Round coming back into Indy's life would give him some sort of redemption arc. Instead, we get the daughter of some rando character we've never heard from before. I also like to point out some things I really liked about this film because it did have some nice little moments. For example, I love seeing Indy punch Nazis in the face again. That always puts a smile on my face. There are a few returning characters from previous movies, a couple of callbacks that are really fun, and I also like the poster. It looks like a classic Richard Amsel poster. So, there you go. But, as I mentioned before, this film feels like a generic action movie with fast cutting. Even that ridiculous jungle scene in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was edited much better than anything in this film. All in all, it's not a great movie to go out on. It's not the worst movie in the world, it does have its moments, but overall this film is extremely mediocre. So no, I do not recommend Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You okay there, buddy? Bad dates.